Welcome to the Ohio Valley Sports Blog video podcast, NBA November 20th. I'm BJ.
I'm Cody.
I'm Ian.
Let's start out with the Cavaliers.
Do we have to?
Really haven't looked good. They started out 2-2 since they're 2-5. No offense, no defense,
Typical Mike Brown team is
no
what you're saying.
anything.
Well, they lost again tonight. So
now they're sitting at 4-8
What was,
too.
what was the final? I know it
Uh,
was bad.
They ended up making it a game. I think it was like 98.
Yeah, the final on that one was
That's not
98-91.
Yeah.
But still,
They put themselves in such a hole.
They gave up 98 points to the Wizards. That's not okay.
No, that's not fine. I mean,
Especially if you're Mike Brown, the only reason you're there to coach is so you can influence the defense, and you give up 98 points to the Wizards.
Which isn't all that bad, but when you don't have an offense, that's when it makes
didn't they
it
give up
bad.
like 110 points a couple games
Yeah.
ago?
They're just not.
They're not really clicking anywhere right now. I mean, it's
No.
still early, and it's not
Right.
like they're in a huge hole, especially with that weak Eastern Conference. But
I mean, the good part is Kyrie dropped 28 tonight, but
I mean, Bynum still hasn't made that big impact.
well, I mean, I don't think he's just not healthy enough to
Not-
do it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's not good.
that was the big
guy
concern.
you signed for 2 years, $12 million, which isn't a huge deal in the
No.
NBA, but when the guy you think is going to be a game changer for a team is talking about how he has constant pain and usually thinks about retiring.
I mean,
That's not the kind of talk you want from a guy who's going to really change your team.
No.
Man, and this is after him sitting out an entire season.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was my biggest worry when they made the deal is I know how good Andrew Bynum can be, and I know how good of a player he can be, but is he going to be able to stay healthy enough to do it? And I don't believe that he can.
Right, I mean, that's the only reason he really went to the Cavs. I mean, otherwise, he would have went somewhere and got bigger money. But since there's the health concerns, he had to go to a smaller market team, take less money for more years, and really try to establish himself again as a healthy, dominant center in the NBA. Because when Andrew Bynum's healthy, he's dominant. When he was in LA and Pau Gasol and he were healthy and going together, you throw in Kobe, that's when they were really, really good.
and they won a championship.
But you take his health away. I mean, it's like any NBA big man. I mean, they're just so fragile.
Yeah, and then you look at the next 5 games for the Cavs. You've got Friday night at New Orleans, Saturday night at San Antonio, Wednesday night home against Miami, Friday night at Boston, and then next Saturday they're at home against Chicago. I mean,
Man, that's a
that's
rough
stretch there. I mean, it's this is.
I mean,
not good right now.
you think about Anthony. You think about Andrew Bynum. He's not even the most disappointing player. It has to be by far Anthony Bennett.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy who they took him number 1 overall. A lot of GMs question the move. You know, who is this guy? Why? I mean, they've stood by it. Oh, you just wait and see. You just wait and see. I mean, so far, he
There's
hasn't
been
even.
nothing to see.
I mean, he hasn't even looked like a guy who should have been drafted.
I mean, when you talk about a number 1 overall pick, that's a guy like a LeBron or somebody that's
It's a
gonna
guy who's
come
supposed to come in and change the culture right away.
You don't develop a number 1 overall pick.
No, and I mean, this was a really bad draft class.
Oladipo,
But that's not an excuse. I mean, look at Oladipo.
Oladipo's looked all right. I mean, there was other rookies out there that were more.
You had the Cavaliers here taking a move that they thought was going to impact them. Instead of taking like Oladipo, who was probably the best player in the draft, they said, "Oh, we have Dion Waiters for a shooting guard." So they end up taking Bennett. I mean,
And if you're going to develop a guy, you should have took Nerlens Noel, who probably had the most talent potential in that class on a defensive point, but you knew he was going to sit out a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, essentially, Anthony Bennett playing being horrible, Noel sitting out a year and not playing. It's really on the same field
but
at this point.
you think about Noel. I mean, he's a guy who fits into Mike Brown's system.
Defense.
You have Anthony Bennett. Andrew Bynum there for the 2 years. Say he is healthy. Okay, you have him there for this year. Then the next year, when they're both healthy and playing, you have Bynum and Noel. You have Bynum teach him post moves,
And
how to be an offensive big man.
That's if Andrew Bynum doesn't explode into a million pieces while he's doing it.
Right,
I mean,
and what that also does, though, Ian, is you don't rely on Bynum as much. You can split the minutes between the two. Just not a. I mean, I'm not surprised because it's a Cleveland organization.
You think
oh,
best?
watch it.
Oh,
Ah.
you think best case scenario you're gonna get like 20 minutes a game out of him when he's healthy?
If that.
That's not $12 million.
And then I think it really goes back to, before we move on here, I thought the Cavs were going to hire an offensive-oriented coach because I thought, I mean, yes, defense is played in the NBA, but it's not that often.
No.
You should have hired an offensive-minded coach who could run up and down the court, get Kyrie going, and all this other stuff. Because
my thought on that
you
is,
win 35 games, you're in the playoffs.
My thought on that is they probably saw how well it worked for Tom Thibodeau and the Bulls and kind of maybe went along that same path.
But Mike Brown is not Tom Thibodeau.
No.
I mean, Tom Thibodeau is a great coach.
Yeah.
And
Tom Thibodeau,
And you think Tom Thibodeau has the personnel to be a defensive team. He has athletic guys, fast athletic guys who like to play defense. And then with Cleveland and Mike Brown, you have Kyrie, who doesn't like to play defense. You really don't have anyone down low. It just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with them. It's still early into the season, and they haven't completely played themselves out because it is a long season.
Right now, the best way to describe it, though, is dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's a good word.
That's a good one for it.
Let's move on to the Atlantic Division. It's been absolutely atrocious. In first place, you have the 76ers. Second place, the Raptors. Third, the Celtics. Fourth, Knicks. And fifth, the Nets. Combined, the entire division, coming into tonight's games, were 19 and 36.
How in
the team leading the division were the 76ers at 5 and 7.
How in the hell are the Celtics in third in that division?
This is a division where you really think the Nets are just going to run away with it. They had so many offseason additions. They're really tools.
Well, you can tack on another loss to that division tonight because Brooklyn lost and the Knicks lost, and there you have it looks like Boston's about to go down again.
So, I mean, you had 3 more losses. That's 19 and 39. As a division, they're 20 games under 500. That's ridiculous.
Man, I really want to focus on.
Toronto beat Philadelphia, so there's that.
So that's a 1-1.
It's a 1-1 split.
So you're 20 and 40, which is still not any good. I want to focus on the Nets in the division. So much talk, and I being one of them, because I really thought they had the talent on this roster. And I think what it's coming down to is that I don't think Jason Kidd is ready to be an NBA coach. I mean, it'd be one thing if he's going into a place where there's a lot of young guys he can teach and mentor. These people that he's coaching, he's probably the same age as most of them. It's really hard.
You think that? I mean, they have an older roster. He might be older than Garnett and Pierce. I'm not sure.
I mean,
but this is a guy, like you're saying, he's not. He can't. It's hard to come in and have no transition and just become an NBA coach.
Right, they're doing their best with. They brought in Frank Lawrence. But tell me, BJ, I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna throw this out because I'm not sure if Ian would know. But tell me, this situation doesn't scream Phil Jackson. You have all these egos with Garnett, Pierce, Williams, Johnson, Lopez. Tell me this doesn't seem like Phil Jackson should just come in, turn this thing around, and win a championship.
I would agree with you on that one. But in the long term, what kind of message does that send Jason Kidd? But you think about it, this isn't a team. This isn't a team looking at the long term right now. This is a team
to win now.
This is a team that has.
And
my thing about that particular scenario is, though, I think if it were the Knicks, I think that happens. I think Brooklyn might be a less bit of a. I think Phil Jackson would probably want that to be a glamorous kind of job, and I don't think Phil is that kind of guy. But I feel like
I think he is.
He absolutely is.
Look who he coached and won all his championships with. I'm just saying, they seem like that situation, because there's a lot of talent on that roster. It just seems like Jason Kidd's having a hard time coaching that talent.
Right, and then you think about it. I mean, when Phil Jackson left Chicago, it's because all the talent was leaving. When he left LA, it's because all the talent was leaving. I don't think he doesn't want to coach anymore. I think
Looking
he's
for the right opportunity.
Right.
Go coach Miami.
Wow. Yeah.
There's all the talent there.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ian. And I mean, probably one of the main reasons we haven't seen an early firing of Jason Kidd is we got to remember he's a minority owner in the Nets, so it's never good when I mean you can't pull a Jackie Moon and be owner, promoter, coach kind of role.
Why not? I think that'd be fun.
I don't know. It's a bad division, but I think it'll get better. I think the Nets eventually figure it out. The Raptors with Rudy Gay can't be that bad for that long. And then you have the Celtics and Knicks, who I think are just going to be abysmal the rest of the year.
Can I just ask, does it look the same to you as it does to me, or does it look like Carmelo's kind of missed a step this year?
He's looked horrible. He's never looked good since he's got into the Knicks.
Carmelo's a guy to me. I mean, maybe all the playoff failures finally getting to him. You know, I mean, he's a guy he's a scorer. He can't be the guy. He's not a team leader.
Hey, he was Captain America in the Olympics.
Hey.
Right. Okay, great. But he's not a team leader. He's a guy who's going to score the ball. But he's a follower. He needs someone to step up and take charge. And sure, but after a while, though, I mean, he's won like one or two playoff series. I mean, that's got to get to a guy.
Yeah, and I don't think they put the right talent around him in New York.
Oh no, I think it's a dumpster fire.
Good term.
Hey, you're welcome
Point Ian
for that.
McConsville with that. But him and Amari just never worked out. They can't be on the same floor at the same time because they both want the ball. It just they didn't find the right piece.
Here's one for you. What was the point in trading for Bargnani during the offseason?
Nothing. There was no
What
point.
was the point in that?
I think
just to add another big name.
a big overrated name.
Yeah,
I think
Andrea Bargnani is
know.
a big name in the NBA. This is news to me.
Well,
I mean, it's a recognizable
I don't
name.
know much about the NBA, admittedly, but I can tell you I've never heard of Andrea Bargnani.
Well, you're missing out.
You're missing out, Ian. I just felt like, I've always said this, I just felt like he never should have left Denver. He should have found a way to work out, because I thought he had a way better chance of winning out west in Denver in that offense than he does in this Knicks offense.
Okay, let's move on to a brighter spot. The Pacers, an NBA best 10-1. They've been nothing short of phenomenal this year. Cody, I mean, it just really looks like they picked up where they left off. I mean, taking Miami to 7 games.
Yeah, it seems like they've come out this year and they have a chip on their shoulder. They're out to win the championship they thought was stolen from them from Miami. Granted, they would have had to play the Spurs, but they really felt like last year was their year. They were going to win it. And I tell you, they've looked great with Danny Granger and everybody being back. Because you got to remember, they took the Heat to 7 games
with no Danny Granger.
Without him playing. And that let Paul George develop into the superstar he's become. So now you have the superstar in Paul George. You add in a huge big man with Roy Hibbert, who's just dominating teams.
And let's not forget Lance Stevenson, too.
There you go.
I mean,
with the name.
I really like their off-season additions this year. They added a guy like Jared Jack and a guy like Luis Scola. Not Jared Jack.
No.
It was a guard.
Yes,
it was a guard.
Was it
Luis Scola? Jared Jack went to Cleveland.
Come on, B.
I know. It was Luis Scola and another guy that just fits right into their system. Tough, hard-nosed player. I love watching this Pacers team. I mean, they're not a team that's going to go out and play no defense and shoot threes and dunk the ball. They're going to dominate you on defense.
George Hill.
No, not George Hill. They're going to dominate you on defense. They're going to CJ Watson. They're going to dominate you on defense. They're really good offensively. They're just a throwback team.
They really, really have a shot to beat Miami this year. and it's a good thing Miami went out and signed Greg Oden. Hopefully, he can get into game shape and be able to compete with Hibbert. Because if not,
Right, and as 2007 Elite Eight matchup showed, Greg Oden is better than Roy Hibbert.
that was years ago. I'm pretty sure Roy Hibbert's probably the best of them now. But speaking of Miami, they're pretty much doing what they do, as BJ would say.
As I would say.
They're 8-3,
9-3 now.
They won tonight. It seems like they picked off where they were the last 2 years. I mean, there was concern because they started kind of slow, but we judge this Miami team like we judge the Pens, like we judge like the San Jose Sharks. It's all about what they do in the postseason. Yeah, it's great that they're winning games, but all they have to do, they have to rest up, get healthy for the postseason, and let's see if we can win that third title.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot you can add with the Heat. I mean, they're just phenomenally good. LeBron, love him or hate him, I know Ian hates him.
Love him.
Is without a doubt the best player of our generation.
Could be ever.
And he could be the best player ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hate a guy all you want because I don't particularly like LeBron James and I don't really like the Heat. But at some point you have to step back and just be thankful that you're witnessing, I mean,
history.
Right, I mean, he has a chance to three-peat. I don't know, I mean, you look at his numbers at his age and Jordan's numbers at when Jordan was LeBron's age. LeBron has the edge. I mean, if he only wins these 2 rings, obviously you're going to go Jordan in his 6.
Obviously.
You
Mike
can't.
Tomlin over here.
Mike Tomlin. You can't ignore 6 rings. But I mean, if LeBron keeps putting up those types of numbers and wins 4 or 5 championships, that's a tough call.
Yeah, and Miami's been playing so balanced this year. You really haven't seen where it's like LeBron 46 points. Ian.
Can I just say one thing about the Heat?
Yes.
In their games thus far this month, there have only been 1 game that they have not scored at least 100 points in.
Yeah, that sounds like
that's when you know you're good. But really, Ian, they've been so balanced this year. You don't see like you saw in Cleveland where LeBron put up 56 points because LeBron doesn't have to do that. If LeBron scores 25 or even 20 points, it's more than enough because you know he's going to have about 10 assists. I mean, and what's nice to see this year is Chris Bosh has kind of revitalized himself. I mean, yeah, they won the 2 championships, but he's been like nowhere to be found these last couple of years, and now he's starting to play a little bit better. You still have Ray Allen.
Can we all also talk about the fact that they're doing this and Dwayne Wade isn't even on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, you had the discussion when LeBron signed there. Oh, whose team is this going to be? Is it going to be LeBron's team? Is it going to be Wade's team?
Pat Riley's team.
Oh, it's Pat Riley's team. But, I mean, without a doubt, it's LeBron's team. I mean, they're doing all this.
And I think Wade's okay with it.
Right. I mean, he's not you have to be okay with it when you sign with a guy like LeBron. And when you're LeBron, you have to be okay with it when you sign with a guy like D. Wade. Sorry, Chris Bosh, you're not really in the discussion.
Right, and all this does for D. Wade is just build on his Hall of Fame resume. Because he already had 1 ring, now he has 3.
I mean, you had
potentially 4, maybe 5. I mean,
you add more
not
rings.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
You add more rings to Dwayne Wade's resume, and I mean, he's still a likable guy.
Yeah, Hall of Famer for sure.
You don't hate Dwayne Wade for recruiting LeBron and Chris Bosh to play with him.
No. Let's move on, BJ, to another team that I just hate watching because they're always so good and they're so fundamentally sound. And that would be the San Antonio Spurs.
Damn Spurs.
They've seemed to pick up right where they left off at the end of last season. They were a Ray Allen 3-pointer away
from the championship.
From winning.
Wow.
And all they've done is starting out 9-1. I'm sure they haven't played yet because
they don't play today.
Or they're not playing. But I mean, it's just all of the same. Tim Duncan scoring, doing what he does. BJ.
Right.
And every year he doesn't have anything left in the tank, and he still comes out and puts up a double-double. Tony Parker, who arguably was the MVP last year until he got hurt towards the end of the year. I mean, the Spurs are a good team, and that Western Conference is really shaping up to be a great, great season and a great playoffs.
Well, I mean, you think about it. People who don't really pay attention to basketball think, "Oh, the Spurs are so old." They're not.
They're really
The big three's old. Tim Duncan's old. Ginobili's old, and Parker really isn't that old. He's in his 30s. I mean, everyone else is in their 20s, athletic, fast, can shoot. I mean, this is a really good team built around those three, but you can't call them old.
No.
I mean, Danny Green. This is a really good team. I don't know. I mean, maybe maybe it's the effect of getting beat by the Heat in the playoffs that you just have to start the season on a roll the next year.
Yeah.
But it really looks like it. Let's move on to another team in Texas. The Dwight Howards. I mean the Rockets. 8-4. They're playing right now. Harden, Howard, Lynn, Parsons. I mean, they've all played together really well. The only really turbulence they've had this year is Omar Asik, who is kind of a no-name once traded.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame the guy because you were the guy last year. You played pretty decent, and then you got and signed Dwight Howard, and it's, well, I don't have a role on his team anymore because you can't put a Asik in at the center or power forward position because he's just not a power forward.
Right, they tried to play them both on the floor at the same time.
Can I ask a serious question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is Omar Asik?
He had one good playoff series with the Bulls, parlayed that into a contract with the Rockets, and had a decent year with them last year.
He's a center, and I don't think he's 7 foot. He might be just short. He might be 6'11", 7. He's around there, but he's a big body. He's a throwback player, Ian. He's a hard nosed player. He's a rebounder, a blocker. He doesn't score a lot of points, but he'll get his dunks.
Okay.
But I mean,
can I just point one thing out about the Rockets here?
Yes.
Let's look at their games this month. These are the points that they've given up in the games that they've played this month. 105, 93, 137, 101, 90, 99, 94, 110, 104, 123, 106, 111, and 85.
Solid defense.
Solid defensive team here.
That's
now
inconsistency is what it seems like.
Now the thing you got to think about though is that in those games they're scoring like 113 and 118 and 116 and 122 and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team. They don't play much defense, but their offense is so good. But in the Western Conference in the playoffs, that style won't work for them.
No.
Yeah, but what you read out those scores in, and what it's saying is they have the potential if they play defense. Because honestly, if the Rockets hold a team under 100 points, they're probably going to win more often than not.
Yeah.
They have so much firepower. They scored 68 points the other day against the Celtics in the first half. That's how good they are. I mean, Harden arguably.
Although I think you could probably sometimes it looks like you could put a high school basketball team out there against the Celtics and they'd score 68.
Right. But they've just been they seem to be really impressive, and I really like that. I really like the Howard and the Harden combination so far. Moving on though to a really surprising. 10-2 Portland Trail Blazers. Let's raise our hands here if we saw the Trailblazers starting out 10-2 this year. BJ, put your hand down. Just really impressive. I mean, they have a good young core there. It's just you thought in the Western Conference 10-2, maybe in the East. But I've just been nothing but impressed.
Yeah, this is a team really, really young, really good. I thought I was a Trailblazers fan when they drafted Greg Oden, so I paid attention to him for a couple years. LaMarcus Aldridge is one of the best power forwards in the game.
Power forwards.
And it's a shame that he didn't have anyone around him for so long in his career, but now he does. They have Damian Lillard, who did he win the Rookie of the Year last year? They have the Rookie of the Year last year in Damian Lillard. If not, he should have won it.
I'm pretty sure.
You have Wesley Matthews at your 2 guard, pure shooter. Batum, a Frenchman, at your small forward, another really good shooter. And then you have Robin Lopez at the center position. I mean, that's a really good team. Now, I didn't really think they were going to start out 10-2 on the year, but they're a team that's solid from the bottom up. I mean, Ian, anything you want to add?
I mean, I think what's most impressive about it is, they do it in streaks. I mean, they're on an 8-game winning streak right now after a loss to Houston earlier this month. They have not lost since that point. I mean, it's truly amazing what they're doing, and nobody really saw it coming from such a young team as this. I mean, and obviously they have a little bit of veteran leadership there, but really it's still a young, inexperienced group of guys that haven't been around that long,
No.
and they're really going out and playing surprisingly well.
I mean, and this is a team not a lot of people are going to talk about. I mean, if they go 80-2, people will. But I mean, if this
let's not.
Exaggeration. But I mean, if they go and get like 45, 50 wins, no one's really going to talk about them. And I mean, this is a team that can make a little bit of noise in the playoffs.
All right, that's because if they win 45, they probably don't get into the playoffs with as good as the
50
West.
games.
I know. I'm just joking. I just hope they can continue this up the rest of the year. I hope it's not just a fluke start to where they start out 10-2 and then they lose their next 5 straight, and now that you know what I mean, they're scrambling again. I hope they can play consistent because
they're gonna need to if they're gonna want to try and beat the next team that we're gonna talk about,
which is the Thunder, who have been nothing short of impressive on the year as well. It seems like we're talking about all these impressive teams, and they seem to be coming out of the Western Conference.
That seems to be a trend that's been happening over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We can talk about the bad Eastern Conference teams if you guys
Can we
want.
not talk about the bad Eastern Conference teams?
I mean,
Bad enough we haven't talked about the Cavs.
Kevin Durant, though, just seems to be like he's got something to prove because, I mean, they didn't even make the finals last year. They got knocked out of the playoffs. Everybody was looking forward to the rematch of 2 years ago's finals, and that never happened. So, I mean, I think if you're Durant, you have something to prove. I mean, you're this talented scorer and you're this talented player who just can't win a championship. I mean, partially it has to do with the big three, deciding to play together in Miami, because if they don't, I think you see Durant and Westbrook with at least one championship under their belt.
Yeah, but you go back to that match a couple of years ago. I mean, the Heat won in 5 games, and the Thunder really looked overmatched. But I mean, since then, at least in the regular season, they've continued to roll. I think last year in the playoffs, if Westbrook doesn't go down,
you're right.
pose a serious threat to the Spurs. But the Spurs were on a roll last year. I mean, they were phenomenal in the playoffs, and they really almost took out Miami. I mean, like you said, it was a Ray Allen desperation 3 away from it. But the Thunder, these, like you talked about with Miami, I mean, this is a team that gets based on what they do, that gets judged on what they do in the postseason. Sure, it'd be great if they won 60 games. I mean, they might, they probably will, but that doesn't matter if they get bounced in the second round.
All I'll say about it is this: everybody tune in tomorrow night because they're playing the Clippers again, and hopefully Serge Ibaka doesn't try to knock some guy out.
Minus that, Serge Ibaka has been really impressive this year. He's kind of added that third scoring option they've been missing since Harden's been gone. I mean, they traded away Harden. There were contract issues. He wasn't going to resign there. I don't blame them for trading him. But I mean, Ibaka has really emerged as that third scorer that they need.
You'd be proud of me though. I tried to watch that NBA game between the Thunder and the Clippers that night. And about 30 seconds into my viewing experience, I see Serge Ibaka try to knock a guy out.
It's tough for me because you say you don't fault the Thunder for trading away Harden, But look who they got in return. They got Kevin Martin,
Oh
and he's
no,
not
their
here
their
now.
their return was horrible.
I mean,
But
I
I'm
get
just
why
saying,
they tried to trade
right.
him. But if they could have kept that core intact
Right,
for at least one more season,
They got Ray Sherrod in that deal.
they really did. Because I mean, now Kevin Martin's playing for the team we're going to talk about next, the T Wolves, who are 7-5 on the year. They haven't looked great, but they've looked all right this year. They're finally coming together. They have Kevin Love, who's been great for the last couple of years. Ricky Rubio is finally healthy. You bring in Kevin Martin. You add Karolinko to that. They have pieces here to where they can make some noise in the Western Conference. It'll be tough the way that the other teams are playing for them to make the playoffs, but they're definitely on their way up.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed by them. Another Western Conference team we're impressed by. They did lose tonight. They fell to 7-6, but on the year, I mean, they lost to the Clippers tonight. I mean, there's no shame in losing to the Clippers, but Kevin Love has looked great once again. I mean, the double-double commercial on SportsCenter is hilarious, but it's true. I mean, there's not a night he doesn't get a double-double. And then you add in, like you said, a healthy Rubio, Kevin Martin, Derek Williams, the pick out of Arizona from a couple years ago. I mean, this is a team that say they start to gel and their young core starts to grow together. I mean, they could make the playoffs.
Yeah,
Ian, let's get Ian's expert NBA opinion on this team. Ian.
Well, I mean, it's a streaky kind of team because I mean, you look at their schedule this month: win, win, loss, loss, win, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, loss. I mean, it's a streaky kind of team, and
We're going streaking.
We're going streaking, but you just have to hope that they're gonna catch fire, you know, and they're gonna really, you know, get on one of those runs where they put together like 5 or 6 wins in a row or something, and they kind of start getting the ball rolling a little bit because I think they have the talent to really make a playoff run.
Yeah, it kind of makes you feel good though. I mean, this is a small market team that has been building through the draft. It always makes you happy when a team like that does well compared to say a Miami that put its core together through free agency.
Right. I mean, they've never really, honestly, they haven't been the same since Garnett left many years ago, and it's nice to see that they're relevant again.
Stephon Starbury too.
Oh, whoa.
Oh. Let's move on to the Warriors. 8-3, they're playing right now. They're leading 20-12 against the Grizzlies right now. This is my favorite NBA team to watch.
Oh my God, I love them.
I mean, athletic shooters, big down low. I mean, Steph Curry,
Baller.
But he when he got taken in the top 10 out of Davidson, it kind of seemed like the Warriors were jumping at something. You know,
they jumped right.
And he had that one good tournament, but yeah, they jumped right. I mean, he's the best pure shooter in the league. You add in Klay Thompson in the backcourt with him, who's another really good shooter. But
that's Klay with a K.
My favorite addition on this team was Andre Iguodala. I mean, he just adds another element to this team. He adds an athletic guy who can post up. Cody?
Yeah, I mean, to continue that, you still have David Lee, and then you have Andrew Bogut. I mean, that's four people that you could argue that are all-stars. And even the fifth with Klay Thompson, he could be there eventually. They're a run and gun style team. That's why people love to watch them, because you know they're going to go up and down the court. I mean, Steph Curry can pull up from 3 feet above the half-court line and swish it and walk away like nothing happened. I mean, he's just that kind of a shooter. Mark Jackson's really turned this team around. I mean, they are just so fun to watch, and I wish they played on the East Coast so we could not have to stay up till 11 to watch them, because
right. And I really like their young players on their bench too. I mean, you look at Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes was a guy who got a lot of playing time last year. He's kind of been replaced by Iguodala, but he's still coming off the bench and having an impact.
And don't they have Jarrett Jack? B?
They don't have Jared Jack. Not every team in the NBA has Jared Jack. It feels like it.
We can't all have Jared Jack.
All right, let's move on to the last team we're going to talk about, the 8-4 Los Angeles Clippers. I mean, I think you're starting to see the effect of Doc Rivers on this team. I mean, yes, they still have the highlight plays, but they're fewer and far between. They're playing a lot more of half-court fundamental offense. They're playing well on the defensive end. I mean, Chris Paul's probably the best overall point guard in the game today. And then you have a player like Blake Griffin who's just dynamic. You have a guy coming off the bench in Redick that can give you 20 points off the bench, 15 points off the bench, and it really spaces them out. Just a Duke grad doing well in the NBA.
Yeah, that's few and far between.
Yeah,
Speaking
those are
of
rare.
that,
Carlos Boozer.
right. You're right though. I mean, this is a team you're really seeing the effects of a guy like Doc Rivers. He's one of the best coaches in basketball, and that's all they needed.
Like Dunleavy.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I'm out.
Okay. He's a guy.
Grant Hill.
He's a guy. And his son went to Duke, you know. Doc Rivers, his son went to Duke.
I wasn't done. Okay.
Okay. And he's a guy
Kyle Singler, Detroit.
Who?
Kyle Singler playing for Detroit.
Barely.
No, he gets regular minutes.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
Doc Rivers is one of the best coaches in the league. That's all this Clippers team needed last year. You had a team who won about 60 games in the regular
Don't say it.
who won about 60 games in the regular season. They get derailed in the first round of the playoffs. Sure, there were a little bit of injury issues, but I mean, Vinny Del Negro is just a horrible coach.
Right.
So I mean, you add in a Doc Rivers who's gonna make them play defense and still a half-court offense.
Didn't his son go to Duke and become
Ian,
a
do you have
first-round
anything
pick?
you'd like to add about this Los Angeles Clippers team?
You're coming to me for basketball analysis? No, but seriously though, can we? I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement that Chris Paul's the best point guard in the NBA.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that we're all in agreement on that. Are we all in agreement that Blake Griffin's easily one of the top 5 players in the NBA?
Top 10.
I'd say probably top 5 power forward at his position.
But you wouldn't say that if you're looking up Duke players in the NBA right now. But
Wait, can I just say one more?
What?
Kyrie Irving.
Oh,
That's your hometown team, Ian.
JJ Redick.
It's my boy.
No, but
Bad, Ian.
anyways, it's like you're enjoying this, aren't you? But no,
Oh shoot.
I feel like the Clippers, you know, yeah, they're playing well right now, but doesn't it just feel like this is kind of setting up to be the same thing that it's been the last couple of years? They do real well in the regular season, and then they just kind of disappear when it counts.
Right,
I
that's
mean,
why Ian, we judge them like we judge the Pens. Yeah, it's great they're doing well, but let's see what they do when it comes to playoff time.
Cody, would you like to add anything else about former NBA or former Duke players in the NBA?
I mean, you do have
If you mention another name,
Mason and Miles Plumlee playing.
oh
I
my
mean,
God.
Ryan Kelly's on the roster. Luau Deng starts for the Bulls.
Oh
should I go on?
God, please
Ian,
stop.
who's gonna win the NBA championship?
Miami?
All right, good analysis.